Okay,
Yeah,
should we start?
we can start, Eleuthera.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Uh, Today we have with us Professor Friedrich Thiessen, who is a prominent German academic, best known for his long-standing tenure as a chair of finance and banking management at the Chemnitz University of Technology. Professor Thiessen has a significant body of academic work, specifically concerning aviation economics, policy, and subvention systems. Beyond his traditional banking roles, he serves as the chairman of the Aviation Working Group at the Chemnitz University of Technology. His research focuses heavily on the structural inefficiencies, environmental impacts, and hidden financial subsidies within the aviation industry. His primary contributions to aviation research include aviation subsidies and market distortions, optimization of European airspace, reducing flight volumes, and aviation taxation and political consultation. Today, we will discuss these issues based on a major recent report he wrote. Professor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Eleftheria, thank you very much for your introduction. That's true. My name is Friedrich Thiessen, and I'm professor at the University of Chemnitz, which is here in the east of Germany, about 200 kilometers south of Berlin. And our task today is to talk a little bit about location costs in air transport. Eleftheria, may I ask you, can one see this presentation here?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay. So let me start with the following. You see here this nice presentation, a very nice design. Here's some slides like this. These have been created by artificial intelligence. Yeah? I was very impressed by the design, found it very nice. However, when I saw what the artificial intelligence made from my presentation, I was really so there is nothing true. So I had to stop using the artificial intelligence, and we must come back to our own presentation, and which contain. I translated it into English, but it contains some German aspects. Please don't be angry. Artificial intelligence was not possible. So we did the study location costs in air transport for transport and environment. They wanted to have a closer look to these costs. And whom do I mean by we? This is Professor Dr. Christoph Brützel. He's from Aviation Consulting, which is a company. He worked with Lufthansa in former years, and myself, I'm from Technical University of Chemnitz. Okay, location cost in air transport. What is the problem? The problem can be seen here. This is a very actual slide. You see here some German airports, and you see here that the airports in the last year reached only Frankfurt, for instance, 90% of the level of passenger transported relative to 2019. Munich reached 89%, Berlin 75, 82, 86. And these are the changes in this season, in this summer season, changes the offer of seats. Frankfurt, although they are still at 90%, they offer no more seats. In Munich, the airlines offer 1% less, although they have reached only 89%. And you see the other figures. So the airlines are very unhappy in Germany, and they started a very aggressive campaign addressing government and asking for more subsidies to foster the growth of German air traffic. And this was done for 2 years. I think it started in 2020, end of 2024, then 2025, and it went on this year. Very aggressive. They wrote a lot of studies. They published articles. They approached parliamentarians. And here you see what they demanded. Staatliche Standortkosten auf Rekordhoch. So this is an article by one of the agencies. Costs, location-based costs, record high, and here especially government determined location costs. So it was a very aggressive campaign. But here, for instance, you see this was an article or a pamphlet written in 2015, also addressing a very high government fees. And here you see this was another publication in 2010. So every 5 to 7 to 8 years, they start a very aggressive campaign approaching parliamentarians to lower some government fees or to lower taxes and to get more subsidies. I don't know whether this is also the case in other countries, but in Germany it's very, very aggressive. And Transport and Environment said, okay, we have to look a little bit into details, and they ask us to analyze these location costs in aviation. And you see here that this is our study. It has about 90 pages. So it's, I think it tells most of what is interesting with location costs. You can find it in the internet if you have interest. But yeah, okay. So, but let's start first. What are location costs? Definition is costs of a flight service that depend on the departure airport and arrival airport, as well as on government measures. So the costs related to the airports, departure and arrival, and related to government measures because the governments are focused to a certain area. What is it in specific? We distinguished taxes, value-added tax, kerosene tax, and then these ticket tax. Then we have the classical airport fees, landing, takeoff fees, noise surcharges, of course, also. Then infrastructure costs, ground handling, central infrastructure, parking positions, and so on. Then this is mostly government-driven, security, passenger and baggage screening, security charges. Then navigation also, tower control. Planes have to land and start. And then the new group of environmental costs, COSIA and all the other ones. So this is the group of location costs, which we analyzed in detail. Now, what has been found out? I will just tell some interesting results and then we can discuss it. No, but let me start with a question for everybody. I have some money here, and who has the right answer could get it, but it's a bit difficult, yeah, because we are online. So here's a company in Metz, a quite successful company. They have business in Eastern Asia. They fly very frequently to Vietnam and other countries. And I ask you, which airport do they use? Which airport do they use to fly to Vietnam and other countries? So they could use here Basel-Mulhouse. It's a very cheap airport, very low location costs. They can use Metz-Nancy. Here's also an airport. Saarbrücken, Zweibrücken, here 2 airports, very cheap one, Luxembourg, maybe Brussels here, Belgium, even maybe perhaps Paris. So here also airports. So there are many, many airports. Which one do they use? Quite cheap airports, low location cost. Eleftheria, do you have an idea, or will anybody else put some name in the discussion?
I would say Frankfurt or Charles de Gaulle, because they're going a long distance, Friedrich.
John,
I would say the same.
You say the same, yeah? Okay.
And Wouter's put in the chat Schiphol.
Yeah. Yeah, your
Moi,
first
je suis à un
idea was
séminaire. Je
correct.
participe à un webinaire.
Oui. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't ask the question because I was looking for the chat. Someone had a problem. What was exactly the question?
Yeah, it was not too serious, but we got the answer. These people, these entrepreneurs, these company bosses, which airport do they use to fly to East Asia, where they have business? Yeah? But
From Medj, where do they travel?
here's the seat of the company. But we got already two answers that were correct. They use Frankfurt. Yeah, they use Frankfurt, and Frankfurt is the most costs are the highest of all these other airports nearby. Yeah. So they use the most expensive. So expensive seems to be not
The problem.
not too bad. Yeah. What has been found out? Let's summarize it a little bit. Location costs have risen really substantially. It's terrible how much they have risen. Location costs vary widely from country to country, and location costs vary widely within countries. And the relationship between location costs and PAX, passenger numbers, PAX growth is weak to counterintuitive. There's no real relationship. I will show you. Now here we have two columns that show the details of location costs. The method usually is to check a certain flight. This is from Düsseldorf to Palma de Mallorca and back to Düsseldorf. And you add all the costs. This is a 320, and you can check all the costs attributed to this flight and that's it. Now here is the German costs from here to here. This is the Spanish cost. So there's quite a difference. Yeah, of course, people, I don't know, wonder a little bit. Here you see, for instance, the passenger security control in Germany at the Flughafen Airport Düsseldorf. It costs 10 euros. And you have the same for Palma de Mallorca, which is only 3. So why is the same passengers are checked? Why is it here 10 euros and why is it here 3 euros? So you have here 18 euros is airport charges. It's in Düsseldorf 18 euros, and in Palma de Mallorca it's only 9 euros. So from 2017 to 2024, the whole cost increased by 59%. In Spain, it was even higher than Germany. It was plus 80%. In Germany, only 55, but at the end, it was 45 euros here and 15 euros here. So huge differences, huge increases. So really strange. As a economic person, I mean, who teaches economics, I mean, it's really, it seems to be really a problem. What's going on? These are flight-related costs, and here you see there's also the kerosene is a very important component of the whole costs, but yeah, it's not everything. Okay, so we now have an idea how location costs have developed. And this is a nice tableau from Ministère Chargé des Transports. They have done a study, and they evaluated like this. There are countries with more than 50% increase between 2013 and 2023. And there are countries, Pays-Bas, Turkey, Hungary, and Germany is here, plus 30%, together with Portugal, Belgium, Royaume-Uni, and some other countries. Here's Greece, plus 10%. You see huge differences in the increase in these countries. Really, really strange. There are especially countries where it became cheaper, and so it's really a little bit strange. Now, what we figured out is that, or somebody in some discussion, somebody asked, yeah, okay, I mean, strange is it, but is it really dangerous, yeah, or is there a quite ordinary rule for it? And we checked consumer price index, so inflation. We checked inflation, and you see this is the same time scale, 2013 to 2023. You see in the first years we had in Europe nearly no inflation. We are not used to inflation. And then beginning with 2021, 2022, inflation started and jumped up. You see, for instance, Hungary, there was really high inflation, was the last years of the last government. And you see, Hungary is here, plus 50%. Yeah. Then Netherlands had high inflation, Germany had high inflation. You see here's Netherlands, here's Germany. So, and here Greece with low inflation, and you find Greece here, location costs increased only by 10%. So there is a very high correlation with consumer price index with inflation, so that our first finding was nothing really to worry about. The rise in cost is largely due to inflation. It's not 100% due to inflation, but big parts of the increase to inflation.
Salut Pascal.
Can you mute yourselves if you're making if there's a noise in the background, please? Thank you.
And the industry didn't tell about this, and so this is the first interesting finding. Then let's start to...
Sorry, Friedrich, there's still...
I think Eve is making this noise.
There's still background noise. Can you mute yourselves and then unmute yourselves when you want to speak?
Okay, I will.
Thank you very much, Eve. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's perfect. Yes. Okay, Friedrich, on you go.
Okay, so first idea, there is some influence of inflation, so not that important. Location costs and their influence on PACs. This was especially what we are interested and what Transport and Environment was interested. How influential are location costs and their influence on the passenger numbers? And we see here, this is a graph from a study from French Transport Ministry. That data are from 2024, and 137 European airports are covered. And you see this very strange picture. Here you have PACs. It's exponential scale. Here very low PACs numbers, and here very high passenger numbers. And here you have the location cost. Here's low cost, and here's high cost. And what you find here is you find everything. You find everything. You find airports which have huge amounts of passengers, and they are very expensive. And you find airports which have huge amounts of passengers, and they are cheap. And you find airports which are cheap and have only very little passengers, and you find airports which are very expensive and have the same amount of passengers. So there's no structure here, no clear line, no clear rule how the relationship is. Let's take one country. France has red dots, and you see here there are quite a lot of airports, and small airports have, of course, this size. Here the small. When they become bigger, the location costs seem to decrease a little bit, and then when they become even bigger, then the location costs increase again. So really a bit strange, but otherwise, taking all 137 together, there's no clear rule. Now, we used another study, which is from DLR, it's a German think tank from 2025. The German government asked them to do a study on location costs, and they analyzed 101 airports. And we took their data and sorted the airports by their location costs. Here you see that. Here's the name of the airports. We have them all. Of course, we cannot see it. But the picture clearly shows here's the number of passengers. This is a logarithmic scale because the differences are so big. What we see is there can be an airport, let's say like this, with this location costs, and an airport with absolutely similar location costs suddenly has much less passengers. So there's no relationship between passenger number and location cost. However, you can find two interesting things. Here are the cheap airports, and you don't find big passenger numbers here. So here's the void. You find only few passenger numbers. And here are the expensive airports, and here you find the big airports, the big passenger numbers. This. Of course, there's also here a big one and here a big one, but most of the big airports are expensive airports. Now we said, okay, this is the whole amount. Maybe there are differences in the various countries. Yeah? So we split this 101 airports into countries. We have France, Spain, Britain, Italy, Germany, and Poland here. And we find the same pattern in every country. The same pattern. You have, let's take France. You have a group of small airports. Here is the passenger volume. So you have a group of small airports. Here they have quite different location costs. They vary in a certain range. And then you have one or two or three very big airports which are very expensive. Here the passenger number is very high here, and the costs are much higher than the small airports. And this pattern you have in every country. Here are the big airports which are very expensive, and here are the group of small airports which have a certain variety of location costs. The cost level itself is different in every country. Here you see the small airports have location costs 4,000 to 5,000 here. In Spain, it is cheaper, 2,500 around. Here in Britain, it's quite expensive, from 7,000 to 10,000. Germany is also expensive. Poland is again cheaper. Yeah? So the cost level absolutely seen is different, but the pattern is the same. Okay, why is this so? Here's a German explanation. We have many pages of explanations. I will show you just here some arguments which play a role. Why is it so? First argument, route planning of airlines is dependent on hub structures, international treaties, and own strategy, and this cannot be changed very often. Hub structures is really fixed. You cannot do anything. Legacy carrier can hardly change their hubs. Point-to-point carriers, they have these influential factors: capacity, catchment areas, market shares, company specifics. So they also they cannot change when a certain airport is a little bit cheaper than the other one. Further factors, GDP in country of departure, GDP development, access to airports, and some more, which we have described. So we could then, when we analyze all these factors, form the sentence, expensive airports are successful because, no, not because they are cheap, but because they offer a good combination of attributes, which is interesting. Especially, or for example, for these people from Metz, who look for interesting flights. This was a task which we had to do for transport and environment. They said, okay, now you have done this for all the airports and you have done this for the countries. Could you make a different analysis? They wanted that we check touristically interesting airports in Southern Europe. So these are touristically interesting airports in Southern Europe. These are the very big airports in Europe. And these are all the other airports which don't belong to these two groups. And you see here all the other airports, we have again this cloud, no structure to be seen. Here on this axis, we have the passenger numbers. And on this axis, we have the costs. So you find everything. Cheap and successful, expensive and successful, and the same with few numbers. Now, what can you see here? Here you can see the touristically interesting airports. They are on the cheap side. These are the location costs. They are on the cheap side. There are no expensive ones. So it seems as if the touristically interesting airports, they try to be cheap. Maybe there's some sort of competition. They want not to be more expensive than conquering airports in conquering regions. While the very big airports, I mean, they seem not to care much about their costs. They are very successful airports, which are extremely expensive. So here's everything. So I think this is quite interesting. And you see this graph, which shows nearly the same. This is from Eurocontrol. You see here a map of Europe. And what you can see here is how the traffic controlled by Eurocontrol developed between 2025 and 2019 in these various regions, Eurocontrol regions. And you see blue means 0 or less than 0, and you see all the advanced industrial countries, they they have 0 or negative. And when you see dark green is plus 20%, these are all the touristically interesting regions at the southern end of Europe where the tourists like to go there. So what can be seen here is that somehow the business development or the business flights, they decreased because we use other techniques now. We don't need the flights anymore, but tourists like to be in interesting areas and they still fly. And so there are these growth. Okay, so we have done quite a lot. Location, costs, and PAX. This we have analyzed a little bit, put light on. Now, to further get ideas, we could now analyze change of location costs versus change of PAX. Maybe then we can see something interesting. Or change in kerosene prices versus change of PAX. I mean, location costs are cost, kerosene is also cost. I mean, if location costs don't relate to PAX, I mean, what is with kerosene is just another group of costs. but everybody would say, yeah, kerosene price is very important. Location cost versus ticket prices, and then change of ticket price versus change of price. So we can analyze the hell of a lot, but we will only do these, and then we are finished.
Okay, how much longer are you going to be, Friedrich?
Let's make it 5 minutes.
5 minutes would be great. Yeah.
We can also do 3 minutes.
3 minutes would be even better. Yes.
Okay, great. So here you see again the cloud. Here you see, so there's no structure. Here's the regression line. Here you see a couple of airports where there were no change in location costs and huge amount of change in bugs. So the bugs changes while the location cost didn't change. Or here you see a group of German airports. There seem to be different developments in Germany. They all had minus 30% about. So the same change in bugs with various changes in costs. Here you see kerosene. This is from 2000 to 2019. You see the development of the kerosene price, very volatile. And here you see the development of passenger numbers. And here you see the development of departures. Very smooth, very steady. There's nothing. And the kerosene price like this. So you see the kerosene price and the location costs have nearly similar influence on passenger numbers. Namely, very limited. Okay, here's location cost and ticket price. Let's skip this, but here we see at the end, yes. As an economist, I'm quite happy. There's a positive slope. So ticket prices are being affected by location costs. A little bit. It's not significant, but a little bit. Okay, and here's price elasticity of demand, but that's a little bit complicated. And if we want to skip, then want to finish, then we should skip this. But I just say the following. Here you have the line which is textbook knowledge, and this is the line which the industry always says elasticity is -1. And because we are afraid that changes in ticket prices affect changes in bugs, but who is on this line? Everybody, all the countries should be exactly on this line, but nobody is on this line. You see, most of the countries are here, which means the ticket price goes up. This is this axis. The ticket price goes up, and the passenger number goes up too. So higher ticket prices and higher passengers, they go together, and it's not higher ticket prices go together with decrease in bugs. So that's not true. Okay, these are all the arguments. We skip this. And I want to finish charges for noise. Yes, maybe if most of the countries are here, you could have charges for noise, and it would not decrease the change in bugs. Okay, thank you very much.
Friedrich, thank you very much indeed. That was fascinating, and that was really very, very different from anything we've heard before. If you can maybe stop sharing your screen so you can see everybody and I can see everybody, that would be great. So welcome again to everybody, and particularly those of you who joined during the presentation. As I say, the presentation was absolutely fascinating. We have got some time, probably about 20 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer, for questions and discussion. And as normal, if you can raise your virtual hand, and if you can't find your virtual hand, I'm sure you can find your real hand, and that would be fine as well. Armel, you found your virtual hand, and welcome.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Ahmed Thomas. I live next to Heathrow Airport. Just one question. The price doesn't seem to change or affect the passengers. But my question is, the people who travel 5 or 6 times a year might actually cut down on the price. So they still travel, but they may not travel as often. What do you think about that? Thank you.
Thanks, Armel. Friedrich.
That's for sure. Price, yes, if people fly 5, 6, 7 times a year, then of course that's a lot of money. They look for the cheapest price. We all do that. Yeah, we check the internet and check for the cheapest price. Absolutely. However, what you find is no correlation between price and passenger numbers. This is really a little bit strange. My explanation is that the time schedule here is about 2019 to 2025. So it's only six years, and then I don't know the relationship. Maybe it's not clear. If we had 1990, where we still had the very high prices of the former region, where flying was more monopolistic, maybe we could see a clearer picture, but not now.
It's really interesting. Friedrich, can I ask you a question about Ryanair? Because Ryanair advertise themselves as the cheapest airline. They often go to airports where they get a good financial deal. How what you're saying is that the cost of flights is not perhaps as important as Ryanair is making it out to be.
Of course, Ryanair is looking for low costs, but it seems that the location cost of airports are not the most important factor. They choose airports for other reasons. The location costs are not what affects their decisions in the most.
That's fascinating because Ryanair make a lot of play about location costs, and actually it's less important. And I suspect Michael O'Leary, their chief executive, it knows that as well. Elevethera and then Jos. And Elevethera, it'll be even better when you unmute yourself.
I think that they might be an explanation about the cost not being relevant with the number of passengers. When I was doing a study about the frequent flyers levy, we saw that only the 3% of the global population will be able to travel during their lives. So these people have an amount of money to spend that will not concern them. So it's not an issue. Money is not an issue, and that's the case, I believe. We try to find the cheapest ticket, but it won't be an issue if it would be a little more expensive than usual. So if, for example, here in Greece, which is one of the most touristic countries, since our passenger levels rose about 90% from the level they were in 2019. By now, it is something someone should consider. I don't know. People travel here for a vacation, and they have money to spend. So we see tourists that have a lot of money that they used to have the previous years, and there are a lot of tourists coming from the Asian countries and India, which spend a lot of money here in markets around the airport area. So if they have 2 or 3 thousand to spend in shopping, they shouldn't be concerned about 50 euros or 100 euros at the ticket.
Okay, thank you, Elefthera. Friedrich.
Yeah, I would say it's a good explanation. I mean, you have seen the figures. We also have seen the figures. We don't know exactly the reasons why it is so. But absolutely, people have money. And of course, they look for the cheapest flight. But if the cheapest flight is 100 euros, they take it. And if the cheapest flight is 150 euros, they also take it. Yeah? So they always take the cheapest flight, but it doesn't matter how it costs. Yeah? If 100 euro or 120 euro, then they still fly. Greece is such a nice country. I would also fly there for every price. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Excellent. Jos.
Yes. Well, yes, I'm joining John, to be surprised about the very low price elasticity of the cost. That in fact it doesn't affect very significantly the passengers and the decisions of the passengers. But in relation to that, and I hope this will come out also of the transport and environment study, is that governments, and this is the case here, for example, in Brussels airport, they use the argument of airport fees, particularly towards older, polluting, noisy planes, in order to say, yes, we are doing whatever we can. And the airport also is saying, old, polluting, noisy planes, they have to pay double or triple modern planes. But what you are saying and what your analysis is showing is that, in fact, whether you double or triple the cost, it doesn't affect the passenger demand. So, the business model stays, remains untouched, basically. And in fact, what is happening is that this is again a form of greenwashing, because they say we do a lot. You see, we double the prices for all them polluting planes, but it doesn't change anything. Is this correct, my analysis, or is it more sophisticated than that?
Yeah, Jos, you really started with this low price elasticity, which is very surprising. I mean, I'm economist. I was very surprised, and I thought in my studies I had learned something wrong. Yeah. However, I would say, we must say the figures are aggregated. So if you have one airport where one plane is very expensive because it's very noisy, and one other plane is not very expensive because it has not to pay these fees, then maybe the passengers switch from one flight to the other flight. Yeah? But in the aggregated figures, you don't see that. You see only the average. Yes? And these components seem to be not so important that they are shown in the aggregated figures. That would be our explanation, but I'm also not sure. So it was a very interesting argument which you presented.
Yeah. Because this is a major policy implication. It's being used by governments to say we are increasing the prices, the airport costs for older planes. And, this will also prompt airlines to switch faster to new planes because the price is cheaper. But your analysis shows that it doesn't make any sense, and even hiring or renting a new plane or buying a new plane costs more. They will stick by the old plane. So
Yeah, a little bit is true what you're saying. Yeah.
okay.
Thanks, Jos. George, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. I come from the Bürgerlichen from Düsseldorf, and Friedrich, you show a map with that in whole of North and Central Europe the tax go down, and in Sweden we had a discussion about the governance tax, and um, I know that they cancelled this, and I read in the press that many um, uh, tax growth, but it seems that it's negative. Was it a short-term effect, or do you know about effects of this tax in Sweden?
No, unfortunately, I mean, no, I could not answer. Do you have an idea what could be the reason, or?
Yeah, the tourism is growing up, and the business flights are go down, and it's the same in Sweden, the same, I think, but I don't know.
No, yeah, that's true. May I come back to your Jonkers? Maybe.
Yes.
I mean, there must be a positive price elasticity if you go to a wider range of different prices. And I would say noise fees have to be much higher. If they are too low, they will not have any effect. Noise fees must be very high, and then the airlines are afraid to losing competition against other airlines, and then they change quicker.
But this makes it very difficult for us because we say if you increase it a little bit, it doesn't change anything. And so we have to argue that they have to, and I hope that the study and your work will help us to argue with the government. Look, don't fool us with imposing small increases in fees and then telling us that this will change the situation or that this will have an impact on passenger demand, because the elasticity is so low that it doesn't basically change anything.
Yeah. But if you have a real serious discussion about elasticities with governments, then you should know that this transport and environment study and also the German study by DLR has not analyzed these problems exactly which you are referring to.
Okay, well, thank you.
Beat, you had your hand up, but I think you took it down again. But feel free to contribute if you still want to.
Yes, thanks. Great presentation. Thank you very much. I've noticed that on several of your slides, the Basel-Mulhouse Airport, abbreviation BSL, seems to be really an outliner, or right on the left or right on the right. I have an explanation for that. This airport is really a cheap airport because they haven't done any much investment into environmental things. Have you also noticed, or can you comment on that in any way?
Yeah, you are. We have not analyzed every airport in detail, but you're absolutely right. I have seen that Basel is sometimes really an outlier. Yeah, it's really this. Yeah, this I saw, but we didn't go into details with Basel. Yeah. Basel Mulhouse is a very successful airport. Yeah. But we didn't lie. We didn't analyze this outlier um, outlier situation.
Okay, thanks very much. It will be very useful for our argumentation, I think.
Jos.
Yes, I would like to come back because last year, at the end of last year, we succeeded in convincing the government because they were desperately looking for more money to plug their budget, their multi-annual budget. And we said, why don't you increase the tax on flights a little bit? And they did so. We were very surprised that it was because, you know, they were so desperate of finding more money or income for the government, and they increased it by 5 for long haul flights. They increased it from €5 per passenger to €10, and there was an outcry by the airline because they said doubling the tax is scandalous. And in fact, Ryanair threatened to leave the country and drop 1 million seats, which he hasn't done yet. But just to say that €5 per passenger, you know, it was a tremendous outcry. And so the government is scared like hell. And so your argument and your analysis shows that, in fact, it doesn't change anything. There is no price elasticity or virtually no price elasticity. So this is a strong argument you're giving us that,
Yes.
you know, that government should be much more, I would say, courageous in increasing cost, because otherwise it's symbolic. It's fooling everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is really interesting. But for this purpose, you can use our study because this tax is part of the location costs and is covered by our study. Definitely.
Okay, very good. Thanks a lot. Very useful.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, Jos. Right. Any further? I don't see any more hands. Any further points? Okay. Well, I think we'll bring things to a close. I'm going to pass back to Ella Bethera in just a minute. But just to say that our next webinar will be in the autumn, probably in September, because we don't do anything over the summer holidays. We have, as UECNA, we're about to publish a study on night flights, and I think that will probably be the subject of our next webinar. So it's over to you, Ella Bethera.
Okay, I don't know. There are some points at the chat if you want to read them, John.
Okay, let me
One
just.
is from Martin, and the other just came in from Carla.
Right. Let's have a look at them. I didn't see them. Yes, Martin is making the point that tourism is now probably the major reason for flying, that the business passenger flights are dramatically less important. And I think that has been shown in the maps that you Friedrich, put out. Carla says it's also important findings. Carla, are you still on the call? Do you want to just do you want to say a few words about what you've written in the chat?
Yeah, I can try. I'm just on the smartphone, so it's difficult. It was about the point of about outcrying when in one country they put it from 5 to 10 euros, I think it was. And unfortunately, often politicals think that the people who are crying about these prices are the majority, but in fact, they are normally very small numbers of people, but they're loud. So it's important because they are afraid to lose something. It's a psychological effect. And I think in this moment, it's important that there are more people telling politicians, for example, how good they find this decision, because often people don't speak about it. That's in large, it's about this point. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Carla. Thanks very
Yeah.
much. Okay, I think we'll bring things to a close. So, Elavathira, it's over to you.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Professor Thiessen, for this nice presentation. We hope to see you at our next webinars and the presentation of our study in September. And I think that we will have good news for people coming from Northern Europe and with concerning the language. So I want to thank you all and say good night.